Stacking surfer. I think I'm your best friend. Balances in your bank and stack. Welcome everybody to the show today. I've got Andy Schectman, the CEO of Miles Franklin, with us. So a couple things I wanted to hit on today. One, probably the biggest news that's relevant to a lot of the conversations we've had is what President Trump, or soon to be President Trump again here, discussed the other day on a post that he put out, which was basically if the BRICS nations create a gold-backed currency or if they back any other currency other than the US dollar, that he would impose 100% tariffs on them. And there's been a lot of conversation on the internet going around this, anywhere from, they're going to have to do what he says or they're going to, destroy their trade, to they have more GDP than we do today combined, and therefore they have the ability to go and do this. And I'm kind of starting to lean towards the camp of, is this strategic? Is there something a little bit more behind this? Is this something that maybe Trump is trying to see if they'll make a move before he's president so he can clean up a little bit afterwards? Or is there something else here? So I want to get your thoughts.
I don't know if he's trying to incentivize this, to incentivize a reset. Some people think that. I think he's overplaying his hand. First of all, you're going to significantly impact trade volume between the U.S. and the BRICS countries. And most of these nations, or many of them, are huge importers of goods to the U.S. So the tariffs, first and foremost, are going to increase prices for the American consumer. Not to mention disrupting the global supply chains, but to the American consumer, as these tariffs will not be paid by those manufacturers or those importers or exporters rather, but they will be paid by the end user, as the producers will up the cost. That's first and foremost. It's going to strengthen the alliance. I think that they'll push these members closer together in an effort to double down, if you will, to establish their financial system.
Yeah, I was surprised to see it myself. It threw me back for sure when I read it, because one, we've been hearing conversation around potential tariffs to help pay for a reduction in income tax. So, there was a bunch of campaign promises around reduced income tax, and then there was a lot of rumors around, hey, maybe we'll get rid of the income tax completely. But you can't get rid of all the taxing if you still have all the spending. So it's something that has to go hand in hand. But this was a new spin on that. I haven't seen tariffs used as, potentially a weapon of war, so to speak.
Call it a sanction. I mean, it's the same thing. It's really not a tariff as much as it is a tax on all of these countries. And so, when you're talking about adding all of the taxes that they're talking about adding, you're talking 120% or more on China alone. Well, good luck. You're going to end up not only massively increasing the price to the American consumer, but you're going to piss off these countries, and it's just going to incentivize them that much more to quietly continue to do their thing. And look, people always said the West wouldn't go down easy. I think when you put Trump into the administration, you could put an exclamation point on that. But in the end, these countries, as you mentioned, already have a greater portion of human population, of global GDP, a military might, of trade routes both on land and sea. You're gonna have 100% tariff when you can't trade in the United States. Well, I guess at some point these countries will have to decide what's more relevant and what's more important. But it's certainly not a good way, I think, to come into office and with an attempt to mend fences. And in fact, he's taken the other position and saying, we've been so weak for so long, I'm done doing that. This is the way it is. If you don't like it, tough. Well, I guess we'll see how that plays out, but probably wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah, exactly. So Andy, with that in the news, do you see that affecting the gold and silver price is maybe my first question. My second question for you is, I know a lot of times the price starts to change a little bit here at the end of the year. Is this a good time to be buying, or is this a time to be holding and maybe waiting for other price changes in gold that may be more favorable to buying? Or do you see us starting to move back up again in price?
Well, I do believe that the Fed wants to let gold go higher. I think they won't stand in the way of it. I don't know that they're going to do what Cynthia Loomis, the senator from Wyoming, talks about, immediately revaluing it. But I do think that it would behoove them to, and it would enhance the balance sheet of the country to let gold go higher. I don't think they will really stand in the way of it. But, you know, right now the trend is risk on. Right now it's risk on trades in equities and in cryptos. There's a link, a very strong link between these stable coins like XRP and XRC, I think it is, that are massively tied to the bond market right now. As much of the world is selling our treasuries, these stable coins like Tether and XRC, I think, it's part of Goldman Sachs. These.
No, I think you did a great job tackling that. It is a hard question. I like going back to the advice you gave that your dad gave you about buying silver every week, or at least not going more than 2 weeks without buying some. And it wasn't necessarily silver; it could be gold too. But to me, I think it's the law of averages, right? I continue to buy when I have something that goes up in value quite a bit. Like I had some Queen's Beast completer coins that I bought, a handful of them. I was able to unload those for $500 premium on top of what gold was trading at the time. I took it. It allowed me to grow my stack. So I still do things like that. So I still sell from time to time, and there's other times where I'm accumulating more. Having a channel like this every once in a while, we hear from people that are local that need to unload some of their metals for whatever reason. It's usually due to finances, not because they're trying to get out of the market. And we'll try to get them a favorable price. I know that's things that your company does as well.
Well, that's the whole thing about metals, I mean, it provides you that liquidity when you need it, and it's not just through a retail operation. That's the beauty of it, and that's why it's been considered wealth for so long. So, yeah, no, I think that's great. If you're able to help people and locally, that's a blessing. So, and I think what you did is smart. Now, I know the Queen's Beast coins and the series, but I've done it with other forms of coins like numismatic coins, where you ride the premium up and you sell it into bullion. And there are times to be in numismatics, there's time to be in bullion. And if you're able to capitalize, like, for example, you could have made the argument a year ago when Silver Eagles were trading at $15, $16 an ounce premium, sell them and buy 100-ounce bars. And I did that with a good portion of my my Silver Eagles. And then I ended up selling the silver bars and buying Eagles when the premiums collapse. So that's not a bad idea. It's similar to playing the gold silver ratio. Yep. Whenever you get anomalies in price, it's smart to exploit them. That's why they're anomalies, and typically they don't last very long.
It's true, but the psychology is there. Everybody thought Eagles aren't going to get less expensive, and they just kept buying them. So that's the other thing I would just throw out to people too. If you've got something that you love buying and the price gets out of whack, it's okay to hold off for a little bit, move to a different product. That's what I found too. So couple quick shout outs real quick. If you guys haven't hit the thumbs up already, go ahead and do that. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, do that so you don't miss the next interview with Andy. We do have some questions that are starting to come in, so I want to see if we can go through some of those questions for you.
Let's do it, brother.
Okay, so here's the first question I wanted to pull up. It's off the subject, but it's not. It goes back to one of your passions. But I've got a couple of them that came in here that I want to hit. It'll help us break things up a little bit.
Okay.
So, can you answer that question for us?
My love of baseball, I can remember hitting wiffle balls over my grandparents' house. My grandfather would pitch me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of balls every time I would go over there, and I didn't live far away, several times a week, and it just became my thing. I was the kid that would wake up at 6 a.m. when I had a game at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, and I would put on my uniform and get back under the covers, get back into bed. I was the kid that slept with my glove under my mattress all winter long to break it in. I was the kid that was out in the snow throwing a tennis ball against the garage. It's like anything, you have to truly love it. I went to the University of Minnesota to play, and in a moment of stupidity, playing a pickup basketball game, I tore my anterior cruciate ligament, and that ended my baseball career. I ended up playing semi-pro softball all around North America into my 40s. I love baseball. I love softball, and you can see the baseball cards over there. When I started to
I don't know about that, Andy, but what I do know is you've got a lot of passion. The fact that you come on to this channel and a lot of other channels and talk about gold and silver proves your passion for the metals, as well as we see the baseball cards behind. I think it's great to get a little story of that too.
yeah,
So
man,
going
right
back
on.
onto the metals a little bit too, this is something that I saw in the news too, and it's always interesting because people that are heavily into Bitcoin will talk about how it's limited to 21 million coins and that's it. And sometimes you'll get these crazy things like a gold asteroid could hit the Earth, and all of a sudden we could have 50,000 times as much gold as we have. Okay, that's not going to happen, but we do find deposits every once in a while. Does something like this affect the market much when you see a new deposit that's been one? I don't know if it's been substantiated to whether it's real or not. We're hearing it from China. They have everything to to be able to say that they have a deposit to help them out, but I'm sure we've got deposits we haven't disclosed in places in the U.S. as well. But do big deposits this affect pricing?
There's a fine line between conspiracy and reality, and I'm just talking out of my ass right now. I don't have anything to substantiate this, but part of me thinks, well, this would be a good way to do it. My whole career, everyone talked about China's numbers on precious metals being, fugazi, that their numbers stood at 1,200 or so metric tons for year after year after year after year, no increase. And it's widely known that they're the largest producers in the world, that they have been, according to my good friend Bill Holter, producing between 300 and 500 metric tons a year for 25 plus years, using the trade imbalance that they had gained from us buying party favors and trinkets from them to mine gold, even that was uneconomical. Alistair McLeod will tell you that, look, they've been promoting gold ownership through their citizens for years and telling them, buy it, buy it, buy it. He'll tell you that 2 years ago that they had 38,000 metric tons, which would be 5 times what the U.S. supposedly has, although that hasn't been audited since 1953 or so.
Another good question for us here, Andy, is on silver, switching it over to silver a little bit. Andy, do you see a sell-off in silver and everyday people because of the continuing increase of inflation? And what I might add to that is, are you seeing more people buying or selling silver? And do they ever give you guys explanations on why they might be selling to you?
Well, I mean, if inflation is going higher, one would think silver would go higher as well. And I think inflation will go higher. So too will the price of silver. So there hasn't been an awful lot of selling. I mean, there is some people usually are somewhat apologetic. I don't find there to be any need to be apologetic. That's what it's there for. I mean, too many people look at gold and silver as only a hedge against chaos, but there could be opportunities, emergencies, or people have families that need help, kids that are getting married or going to school or need some help or whatever it may be. It's wealth. It's wealth that is there when you need it. If not, you pass it on to your family. But if you need it, you're damn glad you have it. So, but in general, no, there hasn't been a ton of selling. And I do think as inflation goes higher, so as inflation goes higher, you're decreasing the value of the currency. So all things being equal, if you devalue the value of the currency, what Trump wants, and this is what he wants, he's openly admitting it, he wants lower interest rates and a weak dollar. You're going to benefit commodities. You're going to benefit commodities in a big way. And it will reignite a commodity boom after, the dust settles. Doesn't mean we're out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, but no, I think a massive, massive depression, recession a la, slash depression. Well, yeah, then might have some issues with silver selling off. But In the end, no, I think silver's become a strategic metal. It's far more important than people think. It is not an industrial metal. It should be a strategic metal. It has many industrial applications, but has many military applications, which we've talked about, which have been omitted from the supply-demand numbers of the Silver Institute, which show a 4-year structural deficit versus supply and demand. So it's becoming harder to get. There are more uses. The world is accumulating it. China or India just bought 150 or 60 million ounces over the last few months, close to 900 million in the last few years. Russia is now adding it to their strategic stockpile. First country I've ever seen publicly say that. And China is going around the world buying unrefined silver as the second largest producer in the world. I said that to David Morgan in an interview I did with him. And he's like, no, they told me they're the first. That's, who's they, the Chinese mining authorities when he went there. But you have a massive producer of it flying around the world buying unrefined concentrate and doré to bring it home. They're already the largest producer who went from net exporter to net importer. So the demand globally for silver is continuing to accentuate on that level, on a much higher up level than just the retail, at a time when the exchanges are massively rehypothecated and will lead to a big problem at some point as deliveries, which is really the means by which these countries are pushing back, is standing for delivery. Maybe we meet a inability to deliver, a force majeure, or whatever it is, and bang, just like that, it explodes. So when we talk about what it is, it's, to me, the phrase asymmetrical risk reward comes into mind, and that is super low downside, super high upside. To me, silver is the value of this generation in commodities. So I don't see it selling off, and if we do, it won't be very strong. I mean, we keep seeing every time it gets anywhere near the 30 range, it pops right back up. The physical demand is far too strong globally, and what Trump is doing, both with what he wants the currency to look like and threatening and sanctioning and threatening tariffs on countries that want to enhance their own their own monetary expansion. They want to take their own monetary affairs into their own hands. It will backfire, in my opinion. It's only going to strengthen the resolve of these countries and have them probably double down on their continuing accumulation of things like gold and silver instead of dollars and treasuries.
I think enough people are aware of what it is. I don't think it's going to come easy. It's probably going to be something where we're in a situation where people are asking for it, so to speak, meaning they need faster stimulus. I don't know what that might look like in the future, but if it does come, I really don't want to be having all of my money into a CBDC where it can be programmed and they can decide how I spend it. The other thing I look at with cryptos is I think cryptos are a way to make money. I know a lot of people don't like them, and there's other people that love them. But cryptos have to be exchanged into something else for the most part to use them. And so, one thing I'd be a little cautious with putting all of your money into cryptos, for example, is at some point you have to take them off ramp them into some kind of a fiat currency. With gold and silver, I don't have to off ramp them to a fiat currency. I can actually use those as money.
Well, it's interesting too, because if you look at those that don't want to off ramp them but want to move into like a stable coin like Tether or USDC, you look at the balance sheets of these two stable coins, which USDT is the primary trading pair on all the major exchanges between Bitcoin and USDT. So you sell your Bitcoin and you don't want to go back into fiat, so you go to USDT or USDC, and these two stablecoin, dollar-based stablecoins, they're 80-85% US treasuries. So people are trying to leave the legacy system and end up supporting it by design as they're loading up on treasuries as much of the world is selling treasuries. It's kind of interesting when you think about the rationale. Why do we not hear about Tether being in trouble any longer? Well, maybe they worked out a deal with them and said, okay, here's the deal. You're going to put 85% of everything into treasuries, and we'll let the stablecoin industry, expand. Who knows? You just keep a handful of commercial banks to do all the loans and the mortgages and that kind of stuff, and you get rid of the 5,000 regional and local banks, and life is much easier as the Federal Reserve would be able to then be, the banker to everyone, right to your cell phone.
I agree too. I mean, we saw in 2008 a consolidation of all the savings and loans gone. Not a single one bailed out, as far as I'm aware of. Um, I think the next step we're going to see is more consolidation. There's still a lot of banks out there, and I really don't think it takes conspiracy theory to believe that. I mean, every industry has consolidated. There's only a couple big box stores around. There's a couple big retailers that people buy from online. Um, so it tends to be kind of where things are going. Okay, one other question I had for you, and I think we'll probably this might be the last one we have time for. Um, but I thought this was kind of an interesting one too, because this has to do a little bit with what I've experienced recently, Andy. So I did a live stream with three other YouTubers, and then I had my friend OC Stacker join us, and we each bought one of the silver flowing hair metals, and we opened them up live for the first time. We didn't know what we had, and I was the last one to open it, and it came out to be a privy, and so we were able to then get that that metal that I paid $105 for. We were able to get that graded, and we sold it for $6,750. This one here would be worth even more because it has a signed COA with it, so it's even a little bit more exclusive. I think they only did.
If you believe that it's the number of ounces that matter, you got not even an ounce. I don't know if they made them in an ounce. The original silver dollars were not an ounce, but even if it's an ounce, and you were able to sell it for 20,000 minus a 10% vig, and you get $18,000, you're going to end up with 600 ounces of silver instead of one. To me, that's a better choice.
I'd agree. That's what we did. So we ended up splitting it among ourselves. So we each got a little over $1,000 for our $150, $105 investment. We get to go buy more silver with it. So
that's very cool. I think
great.
that's really cool, and that's capitalism for you right there.
It is. So I think it's the way to go, because to me it's about growing the stack. I've got I have a little friend group of investors, and one of our goals is to always have more assets at the end of the year, whatever it might be in. I happen to be heavier in precious metals than they are, but I've been able to get them to start buying precious metals where they've been a little heavier in crypto and stocks. And the key here to me is continue to grow your wealth, and you want it in things that you're going to be able to use for a rainy day, or for whatever reason you may want to use them. And gold and silver is money; it is the value.
100%.
So
100%. No, and the wealthy people in the world, they own lots of assets, and so there's nothing wrong with having some cherries on top of your sundae type of thing. But I do think it is. My mentor Richard Russell always used to say, in the end, it's about the number of ounces, and if you can increase your number of ounces in a material way with using the profit that you generate from selling a coin that you were fortunate enough to get. Yeah, I mean, I've done that my whole career in various ways. I think it's a good strategy.
I think so too. All right, it looks like we've got time for maybe one last question here.
I'm in no hurry.
This one I think is good because it goes along with what we talked about on our last show too. You'd mentioned your status as a U.S. Mint supplier,
Yeah,
or not supplier, but I guess reseller.
If I had my choice, I would only buy American-made coins. Period. I mean, I pretty much only do as much as possible. I love the American Eagle. The Platinum Eagles are borderline too expensive. They only made 38,000 in 2023. That's about what they make each year. They make a few million 1 ounce gold eagles. They make 38,000 platinum eagles. That's why they have massive premiums. That's nuts if you think about it. And maybe 10 or 12,000 proofs.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So guys, next week we'll do that. And I want everybody to have a great evening and a great week. Keep on stacking. We're going to have ups and downs on price, guys. Anytime you see the downs, it's really more of a mental game of realizing that it just means things are on sale. We really don't
Yeah.
have any indicators that we're going to have these massive drops down because of people not wanting these metals or it's going out of style. So,
No. No.
keep on stacking. And until next time, peace out.